Welcome the timeless forgotten mystery. On June 13, 1800, Napoleon Bonaparte, first consul of France, pulled off one of history's boldest maneuvers. He marched his army across the ice-covered Alps to outflank the Austrian army in Italy. He captured Milan and crushed every force sent against him. Everything seemed to be unfolding perfectly. Napoleon spread his forces wide to trap General Melis's Austrian army. General Chabron with 3,400 men held the River Po, reinforced by General Lepoip with 3,500 more. General Desaix, with 5,000 troops, moved south to block the road to Genoa. That left Napoleon with only 22,000 men advancing west onto the plains of Scrivia. But overconfident reports from scouts and spies deceived him. Melis wasn't retreating. He had gathered 30,000 seasoned troops around Alessandria, fully supplied, well-rested, and far stronger in cavalry and artillery. They were preparing to attack. On June 13th, General Victor led the French advance on Alessandria in heavy rain. His troops drove an Austrian rearguard from Marengo back toward a fortified bridgehead on the Bormida River, but the crossing was too well defended. Exhausted and drenched, they halted at nightfall. Weeks earlier, Napoleon had predicted the decisive battle would take place on this very plain east of Alessandria. Now, convinced Melis wouldn't risk it, he was unaware that beyond the Bormida, hidden in darkness with no campfires, 30,000 Austrians were assembling for an all-out assault. By dawn, Napoleon's army would be fighting for its very survival. At first light on June 14th, Napoleon's army stretched across 8 miles of vineyards and open fields. Victor held Marengo with 2 divisions, Lannes positioned behind him, and Napoleon further back with the Consular Guard and Monier's division. Melis's forces massed on the opposite side of the Bormida. His chief of staff, General Anton von Zach, planned a 2-pronged strike, OTT's division advancing north to Castel Ceriolo, while Melis attacked directly along the main road. At 8 a.m., under clear skies, the Austrians surged forward. French outposts were driven back. At Pedrobona Farm, Victor's men endured a fierce bombardment before falling back to the Fontenone stream, a narrow, rain-swollen waterway. Only a single wooden bridge allowed easy passage, and Victor's men, shielded by trees and farmhouses, unleashed musket fire on the advancing Austrians. General Haddock was mortally wounded leading a charge, and repeated attacks failed with heavy losses. Further north, Bellegarde's brigade crossed the stream, but Lannes countered swiftly, driving them back. Fighting raged along the Fontenone under brutal summer heat as more Austrian guns battered the French line. Poor planning at the river crossing slowed Melis, but by midday, 30,000 Austrians and 92 guns faced just 16,000 French with 16 cannons. The French desperately needed reinforcements, but Napoleon was nowhere near. The greatest threat came on the right, where OTT captured Castel Ceriolo almost unopposed, threatening to outflank Lannes. Soon, Austrians forced a gap in the French centre and crossed in strength, while 1,500 Austrian dragoons swung around the left, only to be routed by Kellermann's cavalry. Still, Austrian attacks captured La Stordagliona farm and pushed hard against Victor's exhausted divisions. Low on ammunition and facing encirclement, Victor's men collapsed, leaving 400 captured in Marengo and 300 more besieged at Casabianca. Covered by Kellermann and the 96th Demi Brigade, the French retreated to Spinetta, while Lannes fell back under pressure. At the start of the battle, Napoleon had been 7 miles away, dismissing the distant cannon fire as minor skirmishing. Only around 11 a.m. did urgent reports reveal disaster. He wrote quickly to Desaix, "I had thought to attack the enemy. They have attacked me. Come, in the name of God, if you still can." He also summoned La Poipy, then rushed to the front with Monier's division and the Consular Guard. By 3 p.m., Lannes and Victor had retreated a mile under relentless artillery fire, their ranks shredded but unbroken. Napoleon saw OTT's troops threatening the right and sent Monier to check them at Castel Ceriolo. Then, with no choice left, he committed his ultimate reserve, the 900 men of the Consular Guard. Against staggering odds, they repelled cavalry and held their ground in a desperate firefight. Napoleon called them his granite redoubt. But Austrian dragoons hit their flank, shattering the guard. Half were killed or captured. With their fall, Napoleon had nothing left to hold the line. The French retreated steadily under pounding artillery, reduced to barely 6,000 men. Convinced of victory, Melis, injured from a fall, handed command to Zach and returned to Alessandria to write his report. But destiny had other plans. Desaix, only 31, brilliant and modest, had been delayed by a flooded river. When Napoleon's summons reached him, he immediately turned back with Boudet's 5,000 men. At 5 p.m., Desaix arrived to find the French army retreating. The troops, electrified, cheered, "Here they are." Napoleon declared, "We have gone back far enough today. You know I always sleep on the battlefield." The Austrians, scattered in pursuit, were vulnerable. Desaix's fresh division formed the core of a last desperate counterattack. Marmorne massed 18 guns, blasting the Austrian line. The 9th Light Demi-Brigade led the charge, skirmishing fiercely before appearing to fall back. At that moment, Desaix unleashed his men through the vineyards, striking like lightning. Leading a bayonet charge, he was shot through the heart and killed instantly. The 9th Light cried vengeance and surged forward. Kellerman struck next with 400 cavalry, crashing into the Austrian flank. An ammunition wagon exploded, chaos spread, and the Austrian army broke. Thousands fled, thousands more surrendered. General Zach himself was captured with 2,000 men. The tide turned in an instant. French soldiers who had been retreating hours earlier now pressed the attack. As the Austrian centre collapsed, OTT's division joined the rout. That evening, Murat's cavalry sealed the victory, driving the enemy back across the Bormida. The Battle of Marengo was a stunning comeback. By afternoon, Napoleon had faced ruin. By nightfall, he had triumphed. Yet victory was costly. The French lost a quarter of their army, the Austrians over a third. The glory was dimmed further by the loss of Desaix, Napoleon's closest friend. "What a triumph this would have been," Napoleon lamented, "if I could have embraced him tonight on the field of battle." That night, legend says he dined alone on a makeshift meal, later known as chicken marengo. Shaken, Melas requested a ceasefire. Napoleon refused unless it included Austrian withdrawal from northwest Italy. Melas agreed. In the following days, a full armistice was signed. Austria would evacuate Lombardy, Piedmont, and Genoa, leaving France dominant in northern Italy. Napoleon had secured his position as France's leader, convinced more than ever of his special destiny. That winter, Moreau's crushing victory at Hohenlinden forced Austria into peace. By the Treaty of Luneville, France expanded to the Rhine, its Italian republics recognized, and Piedmont annexed the next year. France was now more powerful than at any time since Charlemagne, with only Great Britain left to resist her. By 1801, British victories at Alexandria and Copenhagen proved France could not challenge Britain at sea. But with Austria and Russia out, Britain had no allies left on land. Exhausted, both sides agreed to peace, the first Europe had known in 10 years. How long it would last, no one could say. Do you think you could match Napoleon's glory at Marengo? Could you have won an even greater victory, or perhaps turned the tide for Austria? With Wargame Design Studios' campaign Marengo, you can relive this epic battle. This hex-based strategy game puts you in command of infantry, cavalry, and artillery, with unmatched historical detail and authentic Napoleonic tactics. Play against the computer or challenge other players across 24 battlefields, including Marengo, the lead-up battles, and Napoleon's brilliant 1796 campaign in Italy. Available now for just $29.97 at wargames.com/pages/epic-history. 25% off for Epic History viewers. The purchase includes full game content, detailed orders of battle, extensive documentation, and a scenario editor. Wargame Design Studio also offers an enormous library of campaigns, from Napoleonic Wars to pike and musket, naval, and even aerial conflicts of the 20th century. Don't miss your chance to take command on the Marengo plain.